I dug through my handbag at the farmhouse table, keys, wallet, tissues, but the small orange pill bottle wasn't there. I tipped everything out onto the wood, hoping I'd missed it. No pills. My blood pressure medicine, I murmured. It's gone. Emily glanced up from her phone, smiling too quickly. Don't worry, Mom. I'll grab more at the pharmacy here. Her words hung in the air. I knew this town, Willow Creek, didn't have a pharmacy. The closest CVS was 20 miles away in Mason City. Here you couldn't buy anything stronger than cough drops at the gas station. I stared at her, waiting for her to correct herself. But she just went back to scrolling, calm and unbothered. That's when the unease hit me, heavier than the skip dose itself. For the first time I thought, maybe I'd been brought here not to be cared for, but to be left without real help at all. It was late afternoon in Willow Creek when a pickup stopped by the gate. A man stepped out, tall in a baseball cap, walking toward the porch with quiet confidence. Good evening, ma'am, he said. Name's Michael. I was told this house was sold. Came to look at it before moving in. I gripped the railing. Sold. He nodded. Your daughter said she was handling things. Realtor in town told me the deal was nearly done. The words hit me like a slap. Emily had brought me here 2 weeks ago, saying it was just a quiet place to rest while she took care of matters in the city. Temporary, she called it. Safe. But now this stranger was telling me my house, my life, was already being signed away. This place isn't for sale, I said, though my voice shook. Michael shrugged. Just passing along what I was told. Maybe you should ask her. Then he tipped his cap and left, the crunch of gravel fading with his truck. I stood on the porch long after he was gone. His words circled in my head. She was handling your property. Not just here. What about my apartment in St. Louis? That night I couldn't sleep. For the first time I said it out loud in the dark. She's playing a double game. Emily came back the next weekend. She was smiling, carrying grocery bags, acting cheerful. Too cheerful. Look what I brought you, Mom. Fresh fruit, some canned goods, and... She paused for effect, pulling a smartphone from her purse. And a message from your doctor. I stared at the phone in her hand. Doctor? Which one? Dr. Collins, she said quickly. He texted me. Here, read it yourself. She held the screen out like proof, her nails tapping impatiently on the glass. The message was short, written in stiff, almost mechanical words. Patient should not live in the city. Strong recommendation to stay in a quiet rural environment. Too much stress otherwise. No name at the end. No signature. Just a number. Something twisted inside me. My real doctor, Dr. Collins, always signed his messages with his name and office number. Always. And he never sent anything so blunt. He called when it mattered. This doesn't look right, I said. Emily's smile faltered. What do you mean? It's his number. I saved it. No, I whispered, shaking my head. He wouldn't write like this. He wouldn't tell you instead of me. Her eyes narrowed, but she forced her voice into sugar again. Mom, you're just tired. You don't need to stress. I'm doing what's best for you. You'll see. Later that evening, after she left, I sat at the kitchen table with the phone still glowing in my mind. My chest was heavy, my head buzzing. I couldn't let it go. The next morning I asked Mrs. Harper, the woman from the house down the road, if she could help me check. She was kind, practical, not one of those who pretended everything was fine just to avoid trouble. She brought her own phone, leaned over mine and frowned. This isn't a medical office number. See? No clinic header, no ID. Just a regular cell phone. Whoever sent this is pretending. The words felt like a door opening to a darker hallway. Pretending. Faking. Manipulating. I sat back, gripping the edge of the table until my fingers ached. So Emily had shown me a false message, expecting me to swallow it like medicine. Expecting me not to question, not to think. Thank you, I whispered to Mrs. Harper. She gave me a worried look. You be careful. People sometimes think they know what's best, but... She didn't finish the sentence. When she left, I stayed by the table, staring at the faint scratches on the wood. My daughter had lied. Not a mistake, not a slip of memory. A lie polished and deliberate. I thought of all the things she had said in the past few weeks. Temporary. Safe. Just rest. Every word began to sound like part of a script she had rehearsed. And now I had proof, if only to myself. The doctor's message wasn't real. That night I lay awake again, the house groaning in the cool wind. Outside, the cornfields whispered. My heart pounded harder than it should, but there was no medicine left to calm it. For the first time in my life, I was afraid of my own daughter. A week later, I heard a knock at the door just after noon. Not Emily this time. When I opened it, a young woman stood on the porch, holding a clipboard tight against her chest. She wore a neat blazer, her smile fixed but practiced, like someone used to making nervous people relax. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Miller?" she asked. "Yes," I said slowly. "My name is Sarah Johnson. I'm a social worker with the county office. I was asked to stop by and see how you're doing." Her voice was soft, kind on the surface, but it carried an edge of authority. I hadn't requested any social worker. Nobody in Willow Creek knew me well enough to send one. I frowned. "Who asked you to come?" She glanced down at her papers, then back at me. "Your daughter, Emily. She said she was worried about you living out here on your own. She wanted to make sure you had the support you need." I felt a cold ripple move through me. "Emily. Again. I don't need support," I said. "I'm fine." Sarah tilted her head, the way doctors do with stubborn patients. "It's important to make sure. Can I come in for a quick chat?" I hesitated, then stepped aside. She entered, looking around the small living room as if making notes in her head. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one where Mrs. Harper had warned me about the fake message. Sarah opened her clipboard, pen poised. "Now," she began gently, "isn't it hard for you to manage everything alone? Cooking, cleaning, keeping track of your medications?" Her eyes flicked toward the counter, where empty pill bottles still sat. My cheeks burned. "I manage," I said sharply. She smiled, writing something down. "Of course. But sometimes people don't realize how much strain they're under. That's where guardianship can help. Someone to make sure you're cared for, legally and practically. Has your daughter mentioned this option to you?" My chest tightened. Guardianship. The word rang like a warning bell. I shook my head. "No, I don't need that." Sarah's smile didn't falter, but her tone shifted slightly, firmer now. "Mrs. Miller, we just want what's best for you. Your daughter said you've been confused at times, forgetting things, getting anxious. She's only concerned." Her words struck like cold steel. Confused? Forgetting? Yes, I had misplaced my pills, but that wasn't confusion, they were taken. My daughter was twisting everything, shaping a story to fit her plan. I leaned forward, meeting Sarah's gaze. "Do you always take one person's word over another's?" That startled her. For a moment, her smile cracked, and she looked younger, less certain. Then the mask slid back into place. "I'll file my report," she said evenly. "If you ever feel you need more help, you can reach out to our office." She handed me a card and rose to leave. On the porch, she turned back. "Your daughter cares about you. Try to remember that." I closed the door without answering, the card burning like coal in my palm. I sat for a long time after she left, staring at the neat print of her name. Sarah Johnson, Department of Social Services. It was clear now. Emily wasn't just moving pieces in secret. She was building a case brick by brick to make me look incapable. The forgotten pills, the fake doctor's message, and now an official record that I might not be managing. In the silence of the house, I pressed my hands together to stop the trembling. I thought of my apartment in St. Louis again, of my neighbors there, of my independence. And I realized with a shiver, if Emily succeeded in this, if guardianship papers ever reached a judge, I wouldn't just lose the apartment. I'd lose myself. Emily arrived the following Friday, just before sunset. Her car tires crunched on the gravel, and I felt that same knot in my stomach as every time she came. She carried herself differently now, brisk, businesslike, almost impatient, as though she had somewhere more important to be. Inside, she set her purse down on the table and gave me a quick hug. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important." The way she said it made my throat tighten. I waited. "I went ahead and took your passport and your social security card," she said in a rehearsed calm tone, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "And your pension documents, too. Don't worry, I have them safe. I didn't want you misplacing them here. It's better this way." For a moment I couldn't breathe. My hands clutched the armrest of the chair. You what? She sighed like I was being difficult. Mom, please. This house is old, things could get lost or even stolen. You don't need those papers right now anyway. I'm keeping them for you so they'll be secure. Her words came smooth, but underneath them was a finality that made my chest ache. My papers. My name. My proof of who I was. Without them, I felt suddenly erased. I shook my head. You can't just take them. Those belong to me. Emily crossed her arms, her expression tightening. You're not thinking clearly. I'm trying to protect you. You always worry, but I've got it under control. You just need to trust me. Trust. The word felt poisonous now. She was asking me to trust her while pulling the very ground from under my feet. I tried again, softer. Emily, please. I need those documents. They're mine. But she only gave a thin smile, the kind she used as a shield. I'll bring them back if you ever really need them. But for now they stay with me. When she left that evening, the silence pressed heavier than usual. I sat at the kitchen table long after her taillights disappeared down the road, my hands flat against the wood. My mind raced with memories, trips to the DMV, the courthouse, the endless lines at the pension office. I had always guarded those papers carefully, because they weren't just paper. They were me. And now they were gone. It was a breaking point. Until then, I had been trying to convince myself maybe it was all a misunderstanding, that Emily was just clumsy, careless, or too controlling. But this was different. This was theft. A deliberate stripping away of my identity. Without those papers, I couldn't prove anything. Not to the bank, not to the government, not even to a neighbor who might doubt my word. I realized something chilling as I sat there alone. It wasn't just about money or property anymore. Emily wanted control over me as a person. If she held the papers, she held my life. And in that moment, the quiet little farmhouse felt less like a refuge and more like a cage. The following week, I began to notice the way the neighbors looked at me. Willow Creek was small, barely more than a cluster of farmhouses, a gas station, a church, and one diner that shut its doors by 8. People knew each other here, but I was an outsider, dropped in like a misplaced puzzle piece. At first they had been polite enough. A nod when I walked to the mailbox, a wave when I watered the patchy front yard. But lately the smiles seemed too fixed, too rehearsed. It was on a Tuesday morning when Mrs. Langford came by. She was in her late 50s, always dressed as though she were going to a church social. Bright cardigan, pearls, lipstick a little too red for the daylight. She carried a pie in her hands, the crust golden and perfect. Thought you could use a treat, she said warmly. Living out here must be lonely. I thanked her, though something in her eyes made me uneasy. We sat on the porch and she began to talk in a low, coaxing voice. You know, Margaret, the city isn't what it used to be. Dangerous, noisy, full of crime. Out here it's safe. Peaceful. Don't you agree? I nodded faintly. She leaned closer. That apartment of yours in St. Louis. It's just a burden. All those stairs, all that chaos. Why not let it go? Sell it, buy something here instead. A nice little ranch house, maybe closer to Emily. Wouldn't that make things easier? Her tone was sweet, but every word felt like it had been placed carefully, as if she were following instructions. My pulse quickened. I forced a smile. I'll think about it. She patted my hand. Good. That's all we want, for you to think about what's best. Sometimes children see more clearly than we do, don't they? The words lingered long after she left. All we want. Who was we? That evening, as I sat staring at the untouched pie, I heard footsteps by the fence. When I stepped outside, it was Mr. Harris, the widower from 2 houses down. He was a quiet man, always working on his old Ford truck, rarely speaking more than a greeting. But now he looked uneasy, glancing over his shoulder before approaching me. Mind if I say something, Mrs. Miller? Go ahead, I said. He shifted his cap in his hands. I overheard Mary Langford earlier. She was talking with the realtor in town, and with your daughter too. They've been meeting. Planning. I don't think she came here just to bring you pie. My breath caught. Planning what? To convince you, he said. To make you give up your place in the city. They've got interests tied together. Realtor gets a cut, your daughter gets control. Mary just plays the friendly neighbor. They're all in on it. The words chilled me, though part of me had suspected it already. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. He looked me in the eye serious. "Because I don't like the smell of it. And because you deserve to know. They think you're easy to sway. But I've seen enough in my life to recognize a setup when I see one." For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to gratitude. Not everyone here was against me. Not everyone was part of the web Emily was spinning. I thanked him quietly. He just nodded and went back to his truck, as if nothing had happened. But his words stayed with me. They confirmed what I had begun to fear. This wasn't just Emily's scheme anymore. It was wider, with smiling faces and helpful gestures that were really traps. That night I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the pie Mrs. Langford had given me. It looked flawless, tempting, as though nothing could be wrong with it. But I didn't touch it. I knew better now. For the first time, the silence of Willow Creek felt like a warning. A hush before something larger closed in. I realized then. I couldn't rely on politeness or on pretending. I had to start protecting myself, even if that meant questioning everyone, even the ones who smiled the brightest. Mr. Harris came by again 2 days later. He didn't bring pie or pleasantries, just a small boxy device under his arm. "I thought you might need internet," he said, setting the old Wi-Fi router on my table. "I've got an extra line. Won't be fast, but it'll do for email and such." For a moment I just stared at him. It felt like he had dropped a lifeline into my hands. I hadn't been online since Emily drove me out here. My phone barely worked in Willow Creek, and the farmhouse had no connection at all. Everything, bills, banking, messages from friends in St. Louis, had been cut off. I whispered, "Thank you." He shrugged as if it was nothing. "Just don't tell everyone. Folks around here like to keep tabs." Then he left me to set it up. By evening, the small screen of my old laptop flickered to life. The glow felt almost foreign, like seeing the world again after being shut in a cellar. I logged into my email first, my fingers stiff with disuse. Nothing unusual there. Just junk mail and a few old notes from friends I'd been too ashamed to answer, afraid they'd ask why I disappeared. Then I opened my banking app. My heart thumped as I typed the password. The screen hesitated, then loaded. At first glance, the balance looked normal. My small pension deposits, the checking account I always kept steady. But then I saw the alert in the corner. Suspicious activity detected. I clicked. There it was, a record of an attempted login 2 days ago, from an unfamiliar device. Someone had tried to access my account using mobile banking. They had entered my username correctly, even part of the password. The system had blocked the transfer attempt, but the details were clear. They had tried to move $4,200 to another account. My breath went shallow. $4,200. Almost everything I had left after bills. I scrolled down to see where the transfer had been aimed. The name listed was E. Miller. My own daughter's initial, my own last name. For a long time I just sat there, my hands trembling on the keyboard. Until now, I had clung to the fragile hope that maybe I was overreacting. Maybe Emily was misguided, too controlling, even manipulative, but not malicious. Not a thief. Not my enemy. But this was a fact. Cold digital proof. She had tried to take my money. The room spun. I thought of all the little lies. The missing pills, the fake doctor's message, the social worker's careful questions, the neighbor's soft-voiced persuasion. And now the attempted theft. Each step had been leading here, tightening the trap. I pressed my palms against the table, trying to steady myself. My pulse was pounding so hard I thought I might faint. For a moment I considered closing the laptop, pretending I hadn't seen it, pretending everything was still uncertain. A fog of suspicion instead of a sharp blade of betrayal. But I couldn't. The truth was staring at me in black and white, in numbers and IP addresses. It wasn't imagination. It wasn't paranoia. Emily was stealing from me. I sat there until the screen went dark, the laptop humming quietly in the silence of the farmhouse. Outside, the night was deep and still, but I felt the walls closing in. When I finally stood, I caught my reflection in the dark window. I looked older than I remembered. Not fragile but hunted. And for the first time since all this began, I stopped thinking of myself as a mother waiting for her daughter's help. I began to think like someone who had an enemy inside her own family. Emily called me on a Sunday morning. Her tone was light but too light, the kind of voice people use when they are hiding a blade behind their back. "Mom," she said, "we need to settle a few things. It's better to have everything clear. I'll come by with the paperwork this afternoon. Don't worry, it's just routine." My stomach twisted. By then I already knew about the missing pills, the fake doctor's text, the social worker's visit, the neighbor's whispered persuasion, and the banking attempt. Every thread led to the same knot. She was trying to erase me piece by piece. And now she was coming with documents. That afternoon, Emily arrived in her polished SUV, and she wasn't alone. 2 men got out of the car with her. One carried a briefcase. The other I recognized, Mr. Clark, a local realtor. My heart sank. Inside, she spread the papers across the kitchen table where everything had begun. The lies, the small betrayals, the fake kindness. "Mom, this is just the final agreement," Emily said, tapping the top page. "It'll make things easier for everyone. You'll have security here, and the apartment in St. Louis will be sold quickly. No stress for you." Her words slid across the surface of the table like oil. I glanced down at the papers. My name was there, scrawled in dark ink across the bottom of the contract. Margaret Miller. But I had never signed it. My breath caught in my throat. "What is this?" Emily's smile tightened. "It's already done, Mom. You signed this last week. Maybe you don't remember. But don't worry, it's legal. We're just finishing up." I felt the world tilt. She wasn't even hiding anymore. She was betting on my silence, on the idea that I would doubt myself enough to accept her lie. Before I could speak, there was another knock at the door. Emily stiffened, clearly not expecting anyone. When I opened it, Mr. Harris stood there, and beside him, a man in a gray suit with a leather folder tucked under his arm. "Mrs. Miller?" the man asked politely. "I'm Mr. Reynolds, a notary public. Your neighbor here told me there might be some urgency." Emily's face drained of color for just a moment before she forced another smile. "Oh, there's no need for all this." But Reynolds had already taken the document from the table. He studied it carefully, then turned to me. "Do you claim this signature as yours?" "No," I said firmly, my voice trembling but clear. "I never signed that." He nodded, pulled out a folder, and laid out comparison sheets. "I have your signature on file from previous notarizations. Look here, the slant, the loops. They don't match. This signature is a forgery." The room went very still. Emily's mask cracked. "That's ridiculous. Mom must have forgotten. She doesn't always remember." But Reynolds cut her off, his voice crisp. "I don't deal in memory. I deal in facts. And this signature is not hers." The realtor shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Harris stood like a stone behind him, silent but solid, as if his presence alone was proof that I wasn't alone anymore. I looked at my daughter then, my own flesh and blood. Her face was pale, her jaw tight, her eyes darting like a trapped animal's. All the weeks of deception, all the little plays had led to this moment, and she had lost. I thought I would feel relief, but what I felt was grief, heavier than anything I had known. Not for the apartment, not for the papers, but for the daughter who had turned into a stranger in front of me. Emily gathered the papers quickly, her voice sharp. "Fine. If you want to throw away your chance at security, go ahead. Don't say I didn't try." She stuffed them into her bag, her hands shaking. When she stormed out, her SUV roared down the road, leaving only silence and dust. "Mr. Reynolds packed up his folder. "Mrs. Miller, you should safeguard your identification documents immediately, and you may want to contact an attorney. Forgery is a serious crime." I nodded, though my throat was too tight to answer. After they left, I sat at the table again, my hands flat against the wood. The same table where everything had unfolded, from the missing pills to the forged contract. For the first time, I wasn't doubting myself anymore. The truth was clear, written in the notary's voice and sealed by fact. My daughter had tried to erase me, but she had failed. Still, the silence of the farmhouse pressed in heavier than before. Because what had been lost between us, trust, love, family, could never be signed back into existence. Thank you for giving me your time. If this story meant something to you, show it with a like and subscribe so we can meet again. In the comments, share your thoughts. I treasure every word you leave behind.